In the movie Alien, the crew of the Nostromo fight against a sneaky space monster that makes it on board their starship. All attempts to fight the alien fail as it kills them one by one. If you were a member of this 7-person crew, do you think you'd make it? Do you think you'd be able to beat the galaxy's scariest alien on the worst lit ship in the history of space travel? You do? Well, you're wrong, and I'm here to tell you why. From xenomorphs to bad leadership, I'm going to review all the deadly challenges you would face as a member of the crew. At each step of the way, I'll remove plot armor, highlight plot holes, and reveal new dangers you hadn't considered. In this video from Strange Thoughts, I've collated the top 15 reasons you wouldn't survive the movie Alien. However, before I get to the gory details of your demise, hit the like or subscribe button as it really helps me make more videos. And do it now, because like the crew of the Nostromo, most of you won't survive to see the ending. Our analysis starts as the star freighter Nostromo comes out of hyperspace. What was supposed to be a straight shot back to Earth was interrupted when the Nostromo's AI picked up an SOS-like signal and rerouted the ship to investigate. As the crew is brought out of stasis, they learn they're only halfway home. Captain Dallas explains their trip was interrupted to check out a strange signal emanating from an unexplored moon in the Zeta Reticuli star system. Understandably, the crew is not happy. No one outside the science officer is interested in chasing some cryptic signal from an unknown source in the middle of nowhere. However, it appears they have little choice in the matter. This brings us to reason number 1 why you wouldn't survive. You didn't read the fine print. Much like the contracts you blindly sign on a day-to-day basis, the characters in the film click the I agree button on their employment contract without a proper review. They overlooked a small yet crucial clause specifying their contractual obligation should the ship come across a creepy transmission deep in outer space. I don't think many of you can honestly say you read and understand all parts of the contracts you sign. And keep in mind, this is a contract for Weyland-Yutani, an evil megacorp employing individuals for the dangerous job of transporting cargo from a deep space mining operation. This 50-page 8-point font monster would take a law degree to fully understand. And if you did notice the clause buried deep in the legalese, you'd probably sign anyway, given the low chances of an event like this happening. Of course, like the crew, you have the option not to participate, but under the terms of the contract, you will lose all your pay. The last 10 months of your life will have been for nothing. In addition to this, you could actually come out ahead on this side quest. The contract states you'll be rewarded if you find anything cool on the moon.
Brett, you're guaranteed by law to get a share.
So yeah, the prospect of losing 10 months of wages and the opportunity to get rich off the discovery of some new life form lead most of you to go investigate the signal. What's the worst that can happen? The commercial space tug disengages from the rest of the vessel and starts descending towards the moon's surface. The navigator, who must still be groggy, lands them in a field of large, jagged rocks, heavily damaging their ship. The rough landing leaves them temporarily stranded on the moon. Not off to a great start. Repairs begin on the ship as Captain Dallas considers their options. They still know little about the signal, and all attempts to contact the source have come up short. The cryptic message could be an SOS, a greeting, or a warning to steer clear of an incredibly dangerous alien species inhabiting the moon. The captain decides they need to investigate further and starts planning an expedition to the source of the signal. He asks the science officer for more information on the moon's environment, and Ash gives him a rundown of the specifics.
It's almost primordial. There's inert nitrogen, high concentration of carbon dioxide crystals, methane, rock, lava base, deep cold, well below the line.
Okay, so the scariest environment imaginable. Thanks. That's all you gotta say. Scariest environment imaginable.
The captain puts together a 3-person expedition team consisting of himself, his second in command, and the starship's only navigator. Dallas's lead from the front approach is admirable, but a little foolish at the same time. He's sending 3 of the most indispensable crew members on a dangerous mission to investigate the mysterious signal. I'm no starship captain, but to me it makes sense for someone more junior and, dare I say, expendable to embark on this risky moonwalk. Also, why is the sole navigator of the starship on this team instead of the science officer? Wouldn't he be better suited for just about anything they encounter on their trip? This represents the first of many poor decisions we're going to see from Captain Dallas. Collectively, they represent reason number 2 why you wouldn't make it. Bad leadership. As the expedition makes its way to the signal source, they catch their first glimpse of an alien ship. While this news makes it back to the crew, their live video feed suddenly starts to deteriorate. The atmosphere continues to affect their communications until the crew eventually loses all contact with the expedition. If this were a How to Beat video, I'd explain how they could have anticipated this based on atmospheric readings and responded by setting up a series of relay repeaters. I'd cleverly add that if they didn't have any repeaters on board, they could have constructed one from any device similar to a Wi-Fi router. But this is not a How to Beat video, so I'm not going to cover that. We're going to assume they thought their comms would work just fine. Reason number 3. You are fearless. The expedition makes its way to the ship and finds an enormous dead alien. This guy is an absolute unit, at least 4 times the size of a human. As Dallas makes his way up to get a closer look, he notices a giant hole in the alien's chest.
Bones had been outward. Like he exploded from inside.
That may be a good thing to remember for later. At this point, Dallas should be getting pretty scared. The signs are racking up real fast that they should nope the fuck out of there. If you haven't been keeping track, here's a review. They're investigating the source of a cryptic signal they still haven't deciphered. Could be an SOS, could be a warning. There were no responses to all attempts to contact the signal's source. The moon is inhospitable to human life. Comms are down, so they can't radio for help. They're in an alien ship. The ship is empty, except for a giant dead alien that had something burst out of its chest. After all this, any sane person would turn back and reevaluate next steps. But not Captain Dallas. This Texas-born cowboy ain't scared of nothing. With his 6-shooter at his side, he pushes forward past each warning sign. If you're like Dallas, you're gonna put yourself and your crew in a dangerous situation that could have been avoided with a healthy dose of fear. The expedition continues to explore the ship, finding a hole that leads to a cavern below. Kane, the second in command, volunteers to go down the hole, kicking off a chain of poor decisions I'll sum up quickly. He finds a creepy hole. He goes down the creepy hole where he finds a bunch of eggs. He touches one and it jiggles, revealing a squid-like creature squirming within. The egg sac opens and here's where it gets good. Kane places his face directly over the egg sac opening. You don't have to be a science officer to guess what happens next. The squid-like creature explodes through the egg, puncturing his helmet and latches itself to his face. There were 8 points at which Kane could have avoided this fate, but instead chose to press on. This is a great example of reason number 4 why you wouldn't survive. Curiosity. Contrary to the Curious George brainwashing we experience as children, curiosity can have serious consequences. For kids, it can result in electric shocks, burns, and poisoning. For adults, it can result in grown men sticking their faces over wiggling egg sacs in the cavern of an alien ship. While a lot of you would have avoided his fate, there are some who would have done something similar. These are the ones who take a peek down the mortar tube to see why the firework hasn't launched. On this moon, your curiosity will not only end your life, but endanger the lives of everyone around you. Reason 5. Not following protocols. The unresponsive Kane is brought back to the ship where they hope to remove the parasite from his face. The only thing standing in their way is Ripley, who refuses to let them on board due to quarantine protocol.
If we let it in, the ship could be infected. You know the quarantine procedure.
24 hours for decontamination.
Ripley sticks to her guns when the ship's captain orders her to abandon protocol as a man's life is at stake.
Ripley, this is an order. Open that hatch right now. Do you hear me?
Yes, I read you. The answer is negative.
As the acting commanding officer on the ship, Ripley has the authority to block their entrance, regardless of the captain's orders. While her decision could be seen as ruthless, it is necessary to protect the rest of the crew. However, Science Officer Ash disagrees and lets them on board in an effort to save Kane. While both the captain and Science Officer's motives to abandon protocol are altruistic, they ultimately lead to the demise of everyone on board. It's easy to criticize their decision, but how many of you would have done the same thing if it meant saving your friend's life? While the rulebook may be clear, your mind is going to be screaming rationalizations that lead most of you to make a similar decision. Reason 6. You didn't use protection. Kane is brought to the medical bay where Dallas and Ash attempt to remove the alien parasite. They double down on their abandonment of protocol, skipping every safety procedure in the book, including the one around wearing proper personal protection. This reckless duo go to work poking and cutting at a hostile alien species with little more than surgical gloves and a breathing unit. unit. Their attempts to remove the parasite fail as they learn it has lethal defense mechanisms. When they try to pull it off, its tentacles tighten, threatening strangulation. When they try to cut it off, the parasite's acidic blood eats through 3 layers of the ship's deck. Unfortunately for Kane, they're left with no other option than to wait it out. While Dallas and Ash make it out of this science experiment alive, there are many reasons their not using protection could have killed them. For one, the acid blood could have spritzed into their eye, eating its way into their brain. Alternatively, the parasite could have decided it was tired of smooching with Kane and looked for its next lover. Not using proper protection is reason number 6 why you wouldn't survive. The crew goes about fixing the ship while they wait to see if Kane's condition improves. When Ash checks back in sometime later, he discovers the parasite has removed itself from Kane's face. It is now somewhere in the medical bay. With Kane still unconscious, Ash, Dallas, and Ripley start looking for the creature. Instead of flipping the light switch, they pull out the tiniest flashlights on the ship and begin searching the dark room. This definitely won't end in a jump scare. They look high and low until the parasite drops from the ceiling onto Ripley's shoulder. In a scene to launch popcorn all over the theater, Ripley throws the parasite to the ground and recoils in fear. Ash moves in and confidently writes its death certificate after a few light prods with his flashlight. The trio then proceed to position their unprotected faces over the creature, the same one that just smothered their fellow crew member into a coma. The first sign of intelligence from this group comes as Ripley suggests they launch it into space. After all, they still know little about the parasite, which could just be playing dead. While the captain initially agrees, Ash convinces him to keep it on board for continued study. This is another instance of the captain's bad leadership, whose poor decision making isn't limited to extraterrestrial matters. When he asks Ripley for a status update on ship repairs, she fills him in on the work to be done.
We're blind on B and C decks. The reserve power system's
Oh, no, that's a bunch of horse shit. We can take off without that.
Really? The reserve power system sounds pretty important when you're going into space. I would want off that moon as well, but space isn't very forgiving. Reason 7. You didn't even take his temperature. Kane eventually comes out of his coma with little recollection of what happened.
You remember anything about the planet?
I remember a horrible dream about smothering.
Yeah, that about covers it. Besides hunger and some minor memory loss, he seems okay. No complaints of a sore throat, chest pain, or pulsing alien embryo under his ribs. Either this guy has a high pain tolerance, or the parasite released some type of numbing mechanism to protect the growing embryo. Regardless, the medical test they perform should reveal something is off.
Anyway, where are we?
Right here.
We're on our way home.
Yeah.
Gotta have something to eat before we go back.
I need something.
Yeah. One more meal before bedtime, I'm buying.
What about the medical test, guys? This thing had its private parts down Kane's chest, and no one suggests an X-ray, MRI, or whatever fancy test they have 100 years from now. Their hunger must be clouding their judgment. They don't even check his pulse. Additionally, no one, including the captain, makes the connection between the parasite and the dead alien they found with the hole in its chest.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
This brings us to reason number 8 why you wouldn't survive. You hesitated. The crew is visibly upbeat after it appears Kane is okay. They're one cryo nap from home and a generous bonus due to their discovery of the new species. Maybe this wasn't such a bad trip. The group swaps stories, tells dirty jokes, and enjoys each other's company. Everything seems back to normal until Kane starts choking on his dinner. His choking quickly turns into a seizure and the crew rush to hold him down. Kane's body contorts unnaturally as his ribs crack and blood squirts from his chest. He's either having the galaxy's worst case of indigestion or is possessed by an alien demon. Kane's body continues to writhe until a baby alien bursts from his chest, spraying his guts over everyone's food. After their initial shock subsides, the crew prepares to kill the thing only to be stopped by the science officer. Before anyone can argue, it quickly scurries off the table, making its way into the dark ship. If you think you would have immediately smacked that thing across the room with a dinner plate, I commend you. You're braver than most and may have saved the entire crew. However, the majority of you recoil from a small spider wouldn't have done any better in this situation. Like the characters in the film, you would have hesitated to strike at the one time you had the upper upper hand. And that is reason number 8 why you wouldn't survive. Reason 9. Slackers. The crew does a quick look around and finds no sign of the alien. It is now loose on a dimly lit ship full of hiding spots. Ash and the engineers are assigned the task of brainstorming a way to find and kill the little monster. After some time, they regroup to share their work. Ash starts off by showing the team several fancy motion trackers he built to find the alien. Off to a good start. Unfortunately, the engineering team's contribution is less impressive. A 3-foot-long cattle prod and a cargo net from Jack Sparrow's pirate ship. I know they didn't have much time, but neither did the scientist, and he converted a few leaf blowers into motion trackers. They could have at least rigged up a net gun. A few quick tutorials on YouTube, and they would have had something to hit this thing from a distance. Like any team, there are going to be slackers like these two who fall short on their part of the assignment. However, unlike school and work, falling short on this task is going to cost you your life. The crew splits into 2 teams and starts their hunt. They work their way through one dark passageway after another. There must be a light bulb shortage in this future universe because there isn't one room with proper lighting. Brett is the first to fall victim to the alien after splitting off from the group to find the cat. Who's next on the kill count, James?
Dallas volunteers to chase him out into an airlock so they can blast him into space.
And how does that work out?
Dallas?
Yeah, he dead. Like Brett, his decision to go solo ultimately led to his demise. These guys must live in a universe devoid of scary movies. That is the only explanation I have for their abandonment of the one lesson taught by all horror flicks: stick together. The death of Brett and Dallas is a great segue to reason number 10 why you wouldn't survive. You're up against the perfect predator. Well, maybe not the perfect predator because there is a predator named the Predator that is the perfect predator, but you know what I'm talking about. Time to get nerdy and talk about why this thing is unstoppable. Nerd alert. The crew is up against a xenomorph drone. I'm gonna skip past its superior speed, strength, durability senses, camouflage, skull-busting jaw, razor-sharp claws, and barb-tipped tail to focus on its bodily fluids. Like the facehugger, the xenomorph has acidic blood. This poses a unique challenge when you're on a starship floating through space. Projectile weapons like the ones the crew have on board are more of a problem than a solution. First, missing an alien and putting a hole in the spaceship is not ideal. Given the xenomorph's speed, the dimly lit environment, and the fact most of you are bad shots, guns would be ruled out for just about everyone. But for the sake of argument, let's assume you are the best shot this side of Zeta Reticuli. There's still a big problem with this approach. If a small amount of the facehugger's blood ate through 3 levels of the ship, imagine what would happen if you blew away a xenomorph's head. Its corrosive guts would easily melt through many layers of the ship, again putting everyone's life at risk. So projectile weapons are out. What about flamethrowers? While they may incapacitate the alien, you have no idea if the alien's mesoskeleton would rupture under the heat, and again leak their acidic blood all over the ship. Assuming you knew all of this, which you wouldn't, a trap would be the next best tactic. You could lure it into an airlock or some other expendable part of the ship and use an explosion to send it out to space. But here's the thing, xenomorphs have a fair amount of intelligence. It's the reason why the xenomorph in this movie knew to hide in the escape shuttle when it realized the self-destruct had been triggered. There's a good chance it would notice you were setting a trap, and you'd be back to the idea board while continuing to kill your crew.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
If you're on a ship with a xenomorph, you dead. Reason 11. You work for an evil megacorp. With 3 crew members dead, Ripley becomes skeptical of the science officer's motives. He doesn't seem too interested in killing the thing. Her suspicion leads her to interface with the AI where she comes across a confidential order Ash received when they first arrived in the star system. The order reveals her employer knew there was a dangerous alien life form on the moon and sent the crew anyway. They ordered the science officer to prioritize the return of the life form at all costs, including the death of the crew. This explains Ash's behavior and why they're in this mess to begin with. Acting on his employer's orders, Ash didn't reveal the signal's true meaning, let the infected kid on the ship, and prevented the crew from killing the baby xenomorph when it was most vulnerable. The megacorp behind this deadly order is the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Weyland-Yutani makes the worst corporation of today look like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. By the year 2122, they own pretty much everything and are interested in dangerous alien life forms that can help their bioweapons division. They are known to do just about anything to make a profit, so it's no surprise they sent you and the rest of the crew to the moon. They are directly responsible for this entire situation. Reason 12. There's a Terminator on board. As Ripley learns the truth of their mission, Ash tries to provide rationale for his actions. A furious Ripley cuts the conversation short and storms out of the room on her way to tell Parker and Lambert. Realizing she is now at risk of jeopardizing his mission, Ash blocks her exit. In a surprising show of strength, he effortlessly throws her onto a table and begins choking her with a rolled up magazine. Luckily, Parker and Lambert are able to step in and decapitate Ash, who's revealed to be an android. These two came to the rescue wearing some very thick plot armor. Let's take a second to talk about all the reasons this would not have gone down the way it did. Androids, also known as synthetics in the Alien series, are artificial humans that serve a variety of roles. Ash is a sleeper agent model, meant to blend in and accomplish clandestine operations. While not as powerful as military models, sleeper agents still possess superior strength, speed, and coordination. They are impervious to pain, unaffected by mental stress, and don't get tired. They lack any type of morality other than furthering their corporation's goals, which in this case means eliminating the crew. The three lone survivors are essentially up against a Terminator light. Given all this, here's how it really would have gone down. Once Ash saw Ripley learn the truth, he would have snuck up and eliminated her first. He would have then called in Parker with some fake maintenance issue, ambushed him, and then taken care of Lambert. The crew would have had no chance, as in addition to his strengths, he would have had the element of surprise. But this is not how it went down, as the movie's about killer aliens, not killer androids. Reason 13. The freeze response. With only 3 passengers left, the crew decides to use a shuttle to escape the ship. Parker and Lambert head out to get supplies while Ripley starts preparing the shuttle. While Lambert and Parker are gathering coolant tanks, the alien comes out of a vent and corners Lambert. Parker, armed with a flamethrower, has a shot but can't fire without harming her. He pleads with Lambert to dive out of the way, but she is paralyzed with fear.
Get out of the way, Lambert!
Parker maneuvers to get a better shot, but is seen by the alien, who pins him to a wall. The alien positions itself face to face with Parker and shoots its spring-loaded jaw through his skull. Lambert just stands there, watching the entire thing until it turns around to finish her off. As frustrating as it is to watch her freeze, this is the most likely response from anyone cornered by a 7-foot alien with razor-sharp teeth. Like an animal playing dead, it is the last resort to a threat perceived as too powerful to fight and too fast to escape. While someone like Dutch Schaefer may try to bench press his way out of this situation, most of us don't have muscles that big and would have frozen hoping it didn't see us. Reason 14. The universe doesn't need you to survive. Ripley heads to the escape shuttle after setting the self-destruct. She finishes up her pre-stasis checks, oblivious to the alien hiding right in front of her. Ripley notices the xenomorph only after it alerts her to its presence with an unmet high five. This scene solely exists to ensure a survivor. Up until this point, the alien has been super sneaky. There's no reason for it to suddenly drop out of stealth mode other than to give Ripley a fighting chance. An ending where Ripley gets slaughtered after drifting into hypersleep would have been pretty hard on the audience. A survivor just makes for a better ending and sells more tickets. Unfortunately for you, the universe doesn't care about audience ratings. Realistically, Ripley or anyone else in this situation would have been deep in hypersleep when this monster emerged. Her sweet dreams of home would have been interrupted as the alien punctured her skull with its piston jaw. Reason 15. You fucked with corporate's bottom line. But let's assume you followed in Ripley's steps. You killed the unkillable alien and are rescued by a passing ship that takes you back to Earth. You're still not in the clear. The evil megacorp that knowingly put you in harm's way is going to be more than a little upset with your actions. You blew up their starship, vaporized 20 million tons of precious minerals, and killed an alien that would have been invaluable to their bioweapons division. Unless there's a convenient reason for them to keep you around, such as the one offered in the sequel, you're not going to survive their retribution. Your demise at the hands of the Weyland-Yutani torture division will make your late crew members' deaths look like mercy killings. Every starship crew sailing the cosmos will learn what happens when you fuck fuck with corporate's bottom line. You will have survived an encounter with the scariest alien in the universe, only to die at the hands of your evil employer. And that concludes our analysis. If you still think you survived, you're either the Space Marine from Doom or a predator watching my YouTube channel while waiting for Dutch to make his next move. I hope you liked my glass half empty analysis of why you wouldn't survive Alien. If you'd like me to expand on your inability to survive other horror movie scenarios, consider subscribing, as it helps me make more videos. Also, if you have ideas for movies I should cover, please let me know in the comments below. Shout out to YouTuber CJ Skull for providing me with this idea. Thanks for watching, and remember to live life to the fullest. If you're unlucky enough to find yourself on a starship with a xenomorph stowaway, you're not gonna make it.